Woman killed by flatmate who sent her 40,000 WhatsApp messages and installed a camera in her room. Stephanie Hansen was brutally murdered in her sleep by her flatmate after he developed an obsession for her. The death of Stephanie in 2022 involved some grueling details involving her flatmate years after they decided to move in together. It all began when she met her colleague Sheldon Rodrigues, if I got it right, in the work lunch hall at Heathrow Airport, who was quietly eating alone until she came over and struck up a conversation. He would later bring up the idea of the pair sharing a bigger house together instead of having their own small houses in Hayes, West London. Stephanie's mum gave an interview to The Sun where she said she was a friend to everyone and anyone who knew her loved her. And that's the vibe I'm getting straight away when it says in this article that she saw this guy sitting alone at the airport and she decided to come on over and have a conversation with him. And then of course from there they began a friendship which eventually led them to moving in together and becoming roommates. This is where sometimes you can have the most greatest intentions in the world, but unfortunately we live in a world where people can easily take advantage of that in some way or another, and it can lead to really, really unhealthy consequences. But over time, Sheldon became more possessive over his housemate, constantly asking where she was and what she was doing every day, as Stephanie, 39, told loved ones that he was harmless. She soon became irritated though, and her annoyance soon turned into concern when she started a relationship with another colleague at work. This made Sheldon extremely jealous as he sent her hundreds of WhatsApp messages every day declaring his love for her and warning her to stay away from her boyfriend. But even when he was away, Sheldon knew when Stephanie's boyfriend was visiting, as he planted bugging devices in her house, allowing him to listen to them having sex. On the 30th of December 2022, Sheldon returned home from his night shift after Stephanie's boyfriend had gone, and he beat and stabbed her to death while she was sleeping in her own bed. A new ITV documentary on the horrific true crime story has been released, titled WhatsApp Obsession: The Murder of Stephanie Hansen. I've not yet watched the documentary. I don't think I really heard about it until reading this article, but if you're from the UK and you've seen this documentary, please let me know your feelings down below and what you think of it. Her family and police officers expand on Stephanie's friendly nature and the flatmate's obsession with her, as authorities were horrified with what they saw when they arrived at the scene of the crime. It was horrific. There were 20 stab wounds and 39 blunt force trauma injuries, which were all centered around her head, face and neck. Blood was everywhere, DCI Neil John from the Metropolitan Police said. He later admitted, "We didn't find the knife that caused the stab wounds, but there were blooded fingerprints on a hairdryer and a towel fan in her bedroom, which had been used to strike her with." Sheldon blamed the killing on Stephanie's boyfriend, a married father of 3, who recently started dating her. "Her boyfriend stayed here 2 nights ago when I was at work on my night shift. He was gone before I finished my shift," he claimed to detectives. So Glenda, again Stephanie's mum, said she couldn't understand what happened or why her daughter was found dead, with Stephanie's brother also saying, "There was no one we knew who would do something like this to her. Everyone she knew loved her." The mum recalled saying, "I remember years ago Stephanie saying, 'There's this chap at work and he just sits in the lunch hall and he's on his own.' She met him in 2015 and she just felt so sorry for him." I also remember that her phone would be pinning and I would say, "Who on earth is that?" And she would reply, "Oh, it's just him, ignore it." She looked after him and he obviously took a shine to her, the mum said. I mean, if I was Stephanie right there and I was getting pin after pin after pin in terms of messages from this individual, I would be very concerned, I would be very worried, and I probably would have kicked him out a long time ago. But in saying that, I understand from her point of view that she felt sorry for this guy. He was lonely. He didn't seem to have any friends or family nearby. She probably felt she knew him well enough to know that he was homeless. It's a tragic thing, but it happens all the time, unfortunately. Would then bombard her with messages declaring his love, even after she asked him to stop. As DS Brian Jones admitted, it was endless and it reads like a storyboard ultimately. We've all been there when we've developed feeling for somebody, whether it be a friend or somebody we're just getting to know, and unfortunately they don't feel the same way back. It sucks, it hurts, but that's life, you know. And unfortunately you end up with individuals such as this guy, Sheldon Rodrigues. The flatmate told police that Stephanie's boyfriend had threatened her, but police noted the boyfriend was located and volunteered his DNA and fingerprints and gave us his mobile phone. Everywhere he said he went on that day Stephanie was murdered was the case. He was telling the truth. I mean, it was smart of Sheldon to try and trick the police into thinking it was the boyfriend, because that does happen a lot in terms of violent relationships where sometimes the partner will end up killing the other partner. So he was smart in doing that. Sheldon was possessive and very jealous, and he had a thing for her. He recalled that when Stephanie's roommate was on holiday in his home state of India, he angrily messaged her about a man being home, as she felt like she was being spied on. Police discovered several devices in the home, some being disguised as plug adapters, as Sheldon claimed he bought them but never used them. Intensity of his messages grew with jealousy, such as, "You're playing with fire here. Whatever you're up to, I don't want problems coming into the house. I'm not going to let it end like this. Nobody can come between us." It's scary reading messages like this. It really is. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, you think you know somebody, but in reality, you sometimes don't. However, there were text messages which indicated that they had done something in the past. As Sheldon messaged, "Can we just do it one more time? That's all I'm asking for." Stephanie replied, "No, you just need to back off and be my friend." Lucy confirmed that Stephanie slept with him after returning home drunk from a Christmas party, adding, she said it was the worst mistake she had ever made. Brian explained, the data on the suspect's handset paints a very clear picture of what he's been doing through his night shift. He effectively listening to the conversation, listening to them having sex. But he told Stephanie that he came back for a smoke, as Brian added, "I think it tipped him over the edge and he came home after work in a rage." Neil added, a number of forensic swabs were taken from Stephanie for analysis, and DNA belonging to Rodrigues was found on her stomach. It's an unthinkable scenario that something of a sexual nature may have happened pre or post murder. We simply don't know. Sheldon was found guilty of murder and was then handed a minimum prison sentence of 25 years on the 23rd of January 2024. Sometimes, even when you're like the most kindest person in the world, with the most kindest of intentions, sometimes it's just better to be keeping yourself to yourself, if that makes sense. Even though it's not something in your nature that you would do, you're sometimes better off just keeping yourself to yourself and going about your day as normal. Kind heart is easy said and done, but unfortunately, we never know the outcome of some situations, and it could end up like this, for example. And that's of course something we never want to see or hear about ever, whether it be reading it on the website or hearing it on the news or a podcast, wherever it may be. You just don't want to hear that sort of thing happen to somebody. But with that being said, thank you all for listening to this episode. Until next time, take care, stay safe, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye for now.